Stop for a second before you hand that receipt over. If a security guard stops you at the door and asks to see it, here is the exact sentence that ends this calmly almost every time. You can simply say, "I would prefer not to, but thank you," and keep walking. That is it. That is the whole tool. Now let me show you why it works and why almost nobody thinks to use it. If you have ever felt your stomach drop in that moment, even though you paid for every single thing in your bag, you are not alone and you are not overreacting. Being stopped in public like that triggers a feeling of being accused even when nothing was done wrong, and that feeling is completely normal. Knowing the sentence to say is the first step. Understanding why it actually works and what to do if a guard pushes back is the rest of it. Let us cover both in less time than it takes to walk to your car. Here is what is actually happening when a security guard or store greeter asks to see your receipt at the exit. In almost every state, this request is what is legally considered voluntary. The store is asking for your permission, not issuing an order you are required to follow. Consumer attorneys who handle these situations say most people do not realize this distinction exists because the request is almost always phrased the same confident way every time. "Can I see your receipt?" Said in a tone that sounds like a rule rather than a request. This is different from being formally stopped or detained, which is a separate legal situation with its own specific requirements a store has to meet. A simple receipt check by a greeter at the door is, in the vast majority of everyday situations, not that. It is closer to a store asking a favor of you on your way out, one you are generally free to decline, which is exactly why that calm sentence works as well as it does. Here is the bad way this plays out. A shopper is stopped at the door, feels a flash of panic, and either freezes completely, unsure what to say, or hands over the receipt while apologizing, as if declining would somehow make them look guilty. Either way, the shopper leaves the store feeling small, replaying the moment in the car, wondering if they should have said something different. Here is the good way. The shopper is stopped, takes a breath, and either shows the receipt calmly if they do not mind, or says the simple line, "I would prefer not to, but thank you," and keeps walking toward the exit at a normal pace. No raised voice, no standoff, just a calm, confident answer that ends the interaction in seconds. Now, here is something worth understanding because it changes how this moment feels, even if you decide to simply show the receipt anyway, which is completely fine too. There is nothing wrong with showing it if you would rather avoid any friction at all. This is not about refusing on principle every time. It is about knowing that you have a real choice in that moment, instead of feeling like you are being ordered around. That single shift from feeling controlled to feeling like you are choosing is what removes almost all of the discomfort from this entire situation. Let us talk about what happens if a guard pushes back after you decline, because this is the part that worries people the most. In most everyday situations, a calm decline is the end of it, and the guard lets you continue on your way. But if a guard insists, blocks your path, or asks you to wait while they call someone, the situation has shifted into something different. And attorneys who handle these cases say the right response shifts too. At that point, you can calmly ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to go?" This is not a confrontational question, even though it might feel that way to say out loud the first time. It is simply asking the guard to clarify which situation you are actually in, because a store generally needs a specific, reasonable basis to actually detain someone, not just a general policy of checking receipts. If the guard confirms you are free to go, you can calmly continue walking. If the guard says you are being detained, the safest approach is to stay calm, avoid any physical resistance, and ask to speak with a manager or wait for that clarification. Since physically pushing past someone, even when you are legally in the right, can turn a simple misunderstanding into a much bigger problem. Consumer attorneys are consistent on this point. Being right about your rights and being safe in the moment are two different priorities. and safety comes first every time. Now let us walk through a slightly different version of this same moment, because it happens just as often at big box stores and warehouse clubs, sometimes with membership card checks layered in alongside the receipt check. If a store requires a membership to shop there in the first place, the receipt check at the door is often treated a little differently since you agreed to certain terms when you signed up for that membership. Even here, though, the same basic principle applies. A calm question about whether this is a store policy or something specific to this visit almost always gets you a clear, quick answer instead of a confusing standoff. There is one more situation worth covering because it comes up more than people expect. Shopping with grandchildren or other family members. If you are stopped at the door while shopping with kids in tow, the same calm approach applies, but the instinct to avoid any friction in front of children is often even stronger. Attorneys who handle these situations say the exact same line works here too. A calm decline or a calm question, said in a steady voice. If anything, modeling that calm confidence for a child watching is a genuinely useful thing for them to see. A normal, everyday interaction handled without panic or conflict, which quietly teaches them something about staying composed under a small amount of social pressure. It is worth addressing one more common worry directly, because it comes up often. Some people wonder whether declining a receipt check could somehow look suspicious, as if calmly saying no draws more attention than simply complying. Attorneys who handle these situations consistently say the opposite tends to be true. A calm, polite decline, delivered without hesitation or nervous over-explaining, generally reads as confident, not suspicious. It is actually the flustered over-explaining, the nervous laughter, or the sudden defensiveness that tends to draw more attention, not a short, calm sentence followed by continuing to walk at a normal pace. It is also worth understanding briefly why this moment feels so much more tense than it probably should. For most of us, being stopped by anyone in a uniform, even a friendly store greeter, quietly triggers an old, deep instinct to comply immediately and avoid conflict at all costs. That instinct served a purpose once, but in a low-stakes moment like a receipt check, it often works against you, making a simple, voluntary request feel like an order you have no choice but to obey. Recognizing that reaction for what it is, an automatic instinct rather than an actual rule, is often the biggest step toward feeling calm in that exact moment. If you are watching this from Europe, the underlying principle is very similar, even though store security practices differ somewhat by country. Receipt checks at the door are generally treated as a courtesy request rather than a legal requirement in most European countries as well. And the same calm approach, a polite decline or a simple clarifying question, tends to resolve the moment just as smoothly. It is also worth saying plainly that this habit gets easier every single time you use it. The first time you say the line out loud, it might feel slightly unfamiliar, almost like practicing a phrase before a trip somewhere new. By the second or third time, it becomes automatic, said with a calm, steady voice, and the guard's response is usually nothing more than a quick nod and a "have a good day." Most people who build this habit stop noticing they are even doing it after a short while. Think about how often this exact moment could come up across a normal month of shopping. A grocery run, a warehouse club trip, a quick stop at a big box store. Most of the time, it never happens at all. You simply walk out with your bag and nobody says a word. But on the occasions it does happen, having one calm sentence ready in advance is what turns a moment that could otherwise catch you completely off guard into something you barely think twice about. 3 things to hold on to for the next time this happens. First, remember that in the vast majority of everyday situations, showing your receipt at the door is voluntary, not mandatory, even though it rarely sounds that way when asked. Second, if you would rather not show it, the line is simple. "I would prefer not to, but thank you," said calmly while continuing to walk. Third, if a guard ever blocks your path or insists after a calm decline, ask clearly whether you are being detained or free to go, and prioritize staying calm and safe over proving a point in the moment. This exact scene plays out in stores every single day, and it is almost never explained clearly to the person standing there holding a bag and a receipt. This is not about assuming security guards are doing something wrong. Most of them are simply following a store policy they did not create, often without knowing the legal details behind it any better than most shoppers do. It is about making sure that flash of panic or embarrassment never turns a completely normal, everyday moment into something that leaves you feeling small on the walk to your car. If this helped you feel a little more prepared, consider subscribing, because this channel exists to walk through exactly these kinds of everyday moments so you always know what to say before you need it. This video is for general education only and is not personalized legal advice for your specific situation. And if you found this useful, you will also want to watch the earlier video on what to do when security says you are banned for life, because it covers a related moment where staying calm and knowing the right question to ask matters just as much.